Help me reach 9,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. She came in like she'd won the lottery, kicked the door shut with her heel, wrapped her arms around my neck, and said into my ear, "They picked me, Nate. I start Monday." I laughed and lifted her a little. About time someone had the sense. I set her down, kissed her cheek, and let her spin around our kitchen with that bright, breathless energy I used to think meant us. She talked fast. Title, team, office with a window, a boss who was sharp but fair. She grabbed my phone to selfie the moment, then set it down and hugged me again. "You're proud of me, right?" she asked, watching my face like she needed a stamp. Proud looks like salmon on the grill and me doing dishes. Say when. I pulled out the cutting board. We made dinner with the music low and our knees bumping in that comfortable way. If I'd known where that hug was headed, I'd have eaten in silence and saved my breath. The first week she came home glowing, dropping acronyms like confetti. Mark said my deck was the cleanest he'd seen. The team calls me a sniper. We're moving fast, so I'll be on late. It sounded good. I like people who take work seriously. By week 2, the glow was a headlight in my eyes at midnight. One Tuesday, she texted at 6:40, "Running late, big push. Be home after 9. I set the pan to low and waited. 9 turned into 10:30. The salmon was chalk and the rice was a lump. She came in with air on her clothes that wasn't our air, set her bag down like a judge's gavel, and started talking before sorry. Mark stayed too, so it wasn't just me. He's a machine. Good for the machine. I slid the plate across the counter. "Yours is in the oven." She looked at it like I'd set out a museum piece. "Oh no, I ate at the office." The team ordered in. "Got it." I stacked the dishes. "We doing the same tomorrow?" "Probably. It's launch week." A couple days later, I noticed she kept her phone face down. It never used to matter where it landed. Now the screen was a coin with the wrong president, always hidden. When it buzzed, she'd tip the phone toward her hip, thumb moving quick. She started laughing at things I wasn't in on. Friday, I said, "We still on for my brother's cookout?" She didn't look up. "I told you. We have an offsite Saturday. Team building." "You told me maybe." "Right. Well, it's a yes. We need the cohesion. You and Mark going to build trust falls out by the lake." I leaned against the counter, watching her mouth tighten. She smiled thin and didn't answer. That was the first time she let my name slide off the table like a crumb. At the time, I treated it like a spilled drink. Wipe up, move on. Saturday morning, I left her a note. "Have fun. I'll be at Dan's till late. Don't wait up." I didn't bring up the cookout again. On my way out, I took the bench cushion from the porch, set it in the garage, and reorganized the shelves. Coolers to the front, my tackle box where I could see it. I stopped waiting to be slotted in around her new schedule. I made mine. At Dan's place, we stood around a smoking barrel while kids screamed over a sprinkler. "You good?" Dan asked, watching me take apart a folding chair just to fix a sticky hinge. "New job's eating her. It'll settle." I flipped the hinge back and snapped it clean. "Or I'll settle. Not sure which is smarter." He squinted. "If you need the spare room, you know." It was a joke then, light as the smoke. By week 3, funny turned into thin ice. She started using work as a screen for everything else. Her tone grew light and distant, like I was the neighbor she nodded to, not the guy splitting the mortgage. One night, I set 2 plates on the table like always. She breezed past, stuck her head in the fridge, took a sparkling water, and popped the tab. "Hungry?" I asked. "Not really. Long day." She flicked the tab into the trash and went to the couch with her laptop. "We go live next Friday." "It's huge." "Good. After Friday, do we get a Saturday?" I pulled out the chair across from her with a little scrape so she'd look up. "Why are you making this a thing?" She didn't look up. "I told you it's temporary." Then put temporary on the calendar. "Sunday afternoon. We'll do the farmer's market." She finally glanced up, half a smile. "You and your lists." I'm a fan of proof. I took out my phone. 2 to 4. Walk, food, decent coffee. "Okay," she said, and there was the second hug smile again, just smaller. 2 to 4. Sunday at 1:55, she sent a text from upstairs, "Running late." Mark pulled me into a review. "Be down in 20. At 2:30, I went to the garage, grabbed my keys, and left. I walked the market alone, bought peaches, watched a couple argue over salsas, came home around 4 to a silent house. At 5, she came down in leggings and a top that looked like it belonged to an ad, not a person. Her hair was styled like she'd spent the afternoon getting ready to look like she'd just gotten up. You left? She glanced at the counter, at the peaches. 2 to 4 is 2 to 4. I rinsed one, cut it in half, and pushed it toward her side of the cutting board. You missed it. That's petty, she said. No, that's my sundae. I took my half and ate, juice on my knuckle. She watched like I was the one wasting something. Mark asked me to join the Q&A after the review, she said, tone smoothing out, eyes softening for the first time in days. He trusts my take. It's a big deal for me. Great. Cue your A's. Next time, reschedule with me, not at me. She put her palm on my arm. I'm trying, Nate. Try with the calendar open. That night, I made a small decision. I stopped cooking for 2. I took my jacket off the chair she usually dumped her bag on and hung it in the closet. I moved my toiletries to a small travel kit and kept it in my truck. I told my crew at the shop I'd start opening 3 days a week instead of 2 and shifted my gym time to mornings. Nothing dramatic. Just a man shifting his weight to the leg that's not giving. On Thursday, her team did a happy hour at a place near our house. She sent a text at 5. Swing by for 10? Want you to meet people. I went. When I walked in, she was perched on a high stool, legs crossed, a group leaning in. I recognized the names she'd been dropping. And then there was Mark, mid-40s, clean watch, the kind of guy who smiles with his teeth and appraises with his eyes. He shook my hand like a formality. Your wife, sorry, your partner, she's been a difference maker, he said, like he was reading a performance review. You're lucky. I didn't love the partner, like the word wife had a splinter. But I let it pass. She's good at what she's good at, I said. When she shows up, the room notices. Jess shot me a look I couldn't read. We stood around, and I watched the subtle choreography. He called her kiddo once, then shark, in the same breath. She laughed a little too long at something he said about late nights. Someone asked me about my shop. I kept it short. Every time I looked back, her phone was lighting up, and she flipped it face down again. When I went to pay for my drink, the server said, "It's on Mark's tab." I shook my head. Fair's fair. Put mine separate. I laid a couple bills down anyway. Jess touched my elbow. It's fine, she said lightly. He likes to treat the team. I'm not the team. I slid my wallet back into my pocket. Text me when you're done. If it's not past 10. She blinked. You're leaving? 10 is 10, I said. Next time, I'll plan something that doesn't involve me standing around holding your bag while your boss buys my beer. I said it with a smile that wasn't a fight, just a line. On my way out, I glanced back. She was talking to Mark close, shoulder to shoulder, their heads bent over the same phone. That's when I opened a new shared calendar on my phone, titled it House Logistics, and invited only myself. At home, I set 2 new rules out loud to the empty living room. No waiting up. No cooking for ghosts. Then I stuck a sticky note to the fridge. Laundry flips at 8. Lights out at 10. I'm not on call. The following week, the coldness from her side came with a little spice. She started making jokes at my expense. On Wednesday, I was at the sink rinsing out paint trays for a client job. She walked in, eyeing the mess. You and your little shop, she said, tossing her keys in the bowl. It's cute you have a hobby. I dried my hands. It pays the mortgage and fixes your drawer that sticks, I answered. Cute enough. Don't be sensitive, she said, rifling through mail. You know what I mean. I do. I told her, and put the mail back in a stack, separating my invoices from her fashion catalogs. I also know what I won't repeat. I went to my office and closed the door. 10 minutes later, she knocked with a cup of tea. Truce, she asked, small smile, head tilted. I didn't mean it that way. Tea is good, I said, taking it. Words better. I didn't open the door further. She hovered, then walked away. That was the first softening, the apology with sugar on the rim. I accepted the tea and kept my calendar. 2 nights later, she made dinner. Her turn, technically, though I can't remember the last time she'd done it. Pasta, salad, a candle like we were in a catalog. She poured me a glass of something decent, pressed her knee against mine under the table. How's Dan? She asked, which is how she asks, are we okay? He's good, I said. He hired an extra pair of hands for the remodel. I'm thinking of adding a weekend class at the shop, teach basic woodworking to high school kids. Parents keep asking. That's sweet, she said. Sweet like a hobby? I raised an eyebrow. She shook her head, reached, and brushed my wrist. I didn't mean it. I'm proud of you. Her voice was gentle. I'm just stretched thin. Then don't stretch till it snaps. I ate, appreciated the meal, joked about the overcooked garlic, watched relief flicker across her face. After dinner, she climbed into my lap on the couch for 10 minutes, head on my shoulder, then slid away with, I should prep for tomorrow. Sunday morning, she surprised me by showing up to the shop with donuts. She stood near my workbench, watching me sand a live-edge slab for a client table. This is you in your element, she said, which is what people say when they're visiting a zoo. Yep. I glanced at my students, 2 teens who were there early with their dad to peek. Careful near the clamp. I want to help, she said. Tell me what to do. Hand me the 120 grit. She fished in the drawer and found it. We worked side by side for 20 minutes. She smiled and wiped dust off my shoulder. Then her phone buzzed. She stepped outside to take it. When she came back, the light was different on her face. I told Mark I'd check in before noon, she said, breezy. He needs a quick touch on something. You're off, I said. It'll be 10 minutes. Then take 10. I'm done in 9. I looked at the teens and their dad, gave them a wink like this was normal, and started my wrap-up clock. She nodded, kissed my cheek, second smile and sugar, and walked out with her phone already at her ear. She returned 25 minutes later with a fake hurry, eyes wide. I didn't say a thing. I wiped my hands, locked up, and left without inviting her to lunch. I taught my class that afternoon like nothing else existed. By midweek, she had evolved again. Now it wasn't just cold or careless, it was control and new packaging. She started texting me updates that weren't plans but orders. Move our dinner to Thursday. Don't forget I'll need the car Friday because parking at the office is a mess. Tell Dan we might take his spare room for a weekend if our place gets noisy. Mark wants to do a virtual town hall and my apartment's too echoey. She said my apartment, like she was rehearsing it. Each line had a cost for me. Each got a price back. I replied to the car text. Take the car. I'll Uber. You're paying for it, though? She sent a question mark. I wrote, separate budgets for separate decisions. She ignored it. I set up a new household account, moved our shared utilities there, and have the auto pay. I told her at breakfast without drama. We're splitting the routine, I said, sliding a paper over with the new numbers. I'll cover mine. You cover yours. If you need my help, use words and notice. Otherwise, I won't assume. She stared at the paper. You're making this transactional. No, I answered, pouring coffee. I'm making it adult. That night, she didn't come home until 11:30. I didn't ask. I went to bed at 10, phone on Do Not Disturb. At 2 a.m., I woke to use the bathroom and saw a text from Dan. You up? And one from Jess at 11:05. Crashing late. Don't wait up. I already hadn't. Friday, I had 2 tickets to a small charity dinner. Old client invited us. It was a public thing where couples show up and pretend they like tiny plates. I put on a suit I only pull out when a tie is required. Jess came down the stairs half ready, hair pinned, dress zipped halfway, still on a call. She gestured, 2 minutes. 10 minutes later, I knocked on the doorframe. We're leaving. She covered the mic with her palm. 1 second. Mark's moving the keynote. This matters. Not more than we said we'd show up for at 7. I checked my watch. We're late. She rolled her eyes, finished her thought, and finally hung up. You're impossible. No, I'm consistent. At the dinner, she had her smile back on, like she'd ironed it. We stood with my client and his wife, talking about their new roof. Jess peppered in a few questions, nodding at the right times. Then she reached for her phone again under the table and went secure line with her screen. My client's wife looked at me, then at Jess, then away. In a minute, I told Jess quietly, we're going to talk like people at a table. I'm listening, she said, eyes still down. You're not, I replied, and finished the tiny plate. On the ride home, neither of us said much. Saturday was the offsite. She left an athleisure and a new tone, like she was already in a different life. You don't have to wait up, she said, reaching for the door. I won't. I was fixing a bit of trim on a stair. Text if plans change. They always change, she tossed back. Then text always. I didn't look up. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. I killed the TV and read. At 1:30, nothing. At 2 o'clock, my phone lit up. It was time. I called her. A man answered. She's busy, he said, smooth, practiced, like he'd been rehearsing being calm for a living. Tell her she's got 30 seconds, I said. My voice was as level as when I'm measuring a board. He laughed softly, covered the receiver, and said something I couldn't catch. Then, in the background, a small, unmistakable sound, Jess's laugh, muted and pleased. The kind of laugh you hear when someone thinks they've arrived. Then his voice came back. She'll call you later. Don't bother. I paused. Let the silence sit long enough to be a choice. Keep her. She's your problem now. There was a beat. Fabric moved. Then Jess came on the line, breath short. Nate. I tapped in before she could spin it. Set the phone down. Stood for one long minute looking at the hallway pictures. Us with fake foam beards at a winter festival. Her holding up a fish I'd coached her to reel in. The two of us at Dan's deck before the stain faded. Then I went to the bedroom, took off my ring, set it on the nightstand. Sat at the edge of the bed and waited. You learn a lot about yourself in a quiet room at 2 in the morning. What I learned is I don't negotiate with people who enjoy watching me get smaller. At 2:35, the lock clicked. She came in with the same air as that first night. Too light for the hour, too careful for the truth. She put her bag on the chair, kicked off her shoes. Hey, she said, like she'd been at her sister's. I stood up. Pack a bag. You're leaving. She blinked once, slow. What? You heard me. She gave a little sound, not a laugh, more like a scoff warmed up in the microwave. I'm not going anywhere. It's late. I'm exhausted. I called you. He answered. I stepped closer, not loud, not gentle. We're done here. You're being dramatic. I picked up my ring from the nightstand, walked to her, and let it drop by her bare foot. It made a small, polite click. You can put that wherever you put the truth. She looked at it, then back up. You think I'm going to beg? I think you're going to watch me walk out. I grabbed an overnight bag and slid in the top drawer. 2 shirts, underwear, my shaving kit. I took my passport, my truck title, the deed copy I keep. I zipped the bag, went to the kitchen, took the spare keys off the hook, tossed them on the counter so they'd be out of habit reach. She followed me down the hall. You're not serious. I'll send for anything I miss. I set my toolbox by the door because that's what I take when things need fixing. And I'll have the locks changed on Wednesday. Plenty of time for you to make a plan. You don't get to. Wrong. I get to do exactly this. I opened the door. She didn't move. She just stood there like the hallway would step aside for her if she stared long enough. I left. Dan opened his door in gym shorts and a faded t-shirt, eyes still foggy. The smell of pine cleaner and old pizza hit me like something honest. Okay, he said when he saw my face and the bag. Okay, come in. We sat at his kitchen table. He poured us both water. I told him everything, straight through. No breaks, no adjectives I'd have to apologize for. He rubbed his jaw. He answered, I said. I told him to keep her. Dan stared at the wall, then back at me. You're staying here. Take the spare. The sheets are clean. We'll hit the gym at 7. You want me to. No calls. No messages. She knows what time it is. He nodded. We sat like that a while. 2 men who've painted enough decks to know where the boards will rot first. At 7:30 the next morning, after a shower and a quiet breakfast at his counter, I drove to the office that handles my paperwork. I don't need drama to do a simple thing. I knew what I was choosing. I filled out what I had to fill, submitted what I had to submit, and went to the shop. I changed the access code and forwarded the house utilities to the new shared account. I took my name off any auto pay that didn't have my signature. I pinged the locksmith and booked Wednesday. I texted Jess one line. I'll come by with Dan Thursday at 6 to get the rest of my things. Please be elsewhere. No reply. Monday, silence. Tuesday, a meme sent to our old group chat, as if she'd forgotten I was in it. I did not respond. I threw myself into work, took on 2 new clients, trained the high school kid who kept hanging around into someone who could safely run a sander. I slept at Dan's place on the spare bed and didn't think about her pillow. At night, Dan would sit in the doorway and toss me a bottle of water like we were back in high school after practice. You good? He'd ask. Good enough, I'd answer. On Thursday at 6, we rolled up to my house. I'd messaged Jess once more that morning, heading over at 6 with Dan. If you're there, I'll wait in the truck and come back at 8. She left it unread. When we pulled up, the driveway was empty. I used my key, walked into the quiet, and did what I came to do. I packed my clothes, my books, The guitar I play more than well enough. I took photos off the wall that were mine before I left the wedding album on the shelf, face in, because I wasn't going to carry a history I no longer recognized. Dan carried boxes without commentary, his way of being useful and not nosy. On the dining table, there was a folded note. I didn't open it. I wasn't playing scavenger hunt. I left it where it lay. Before we left, I took one last walk through the rooms, flicking switches, making sure the place wouldn't burn down out of spite. At the door, Dan said, "You want to say anything? Leave a line on the counter." I said what I needed at 2 a.m., I told him. We stepped into the evening air. I turned the key in the lock, then paused, went back inside, picked my ring up from where I dropped it. The spot was clean like she'd made it disappear. In the bedroom trash, there was the small clink of metal against plastic. I left it. The locksmith came the next day. I didn't go. Week 1, she didn't call. Week 2, on a Wednesday, my phone lit up with her name. I let it ring. It rang again. I answered. Her voice was unrecognizable, like she'd been running. "Nate, please. I need to talk to you." "You have 30 seconds, I said. "I lost the job," she blurted. "I messed up. I see it. I want to fix things. I'm so sorry. I am. I was stupid. I was." "You're out of time," I said, and ended the call. I blocked the number. I put my phone face down, the way she used to, not because I was hiding, but because I was done. The next day, she emailed from a different address. I didn't open it. 2 days after that, she called Dan. He picked up, said he made his choice, and hung up. She sent a message through her sister. I texted the sister, "I'm good. Please respect the boundary." After that, it was quiet. You want me to tell you I was angry? I was something quieter. Anger needs a target. I had decisions. I did those. A few weeks later, I drove by the house with the locksmith to switch out one more lock I'd forgotten about on the side gate. Her car was gone. A moving van's shadow had left a rectangle on the street, dust where tires had been. The neighbor, Mrs. Green, was trimming hedges. She waved at me with her clippers. "Don't worry," she said, lowering her voice like the hedge could gossip. She was in and out. Didn't make a scene. Why would she? I said, "It's not her stage anymore." Mrs. Green clucked her tongue, the sound old people make when they've seen too much. Back at Dan's, he was grilling chicken and overcooking it because he always does. He tossed me the tongs. "Fix it," he said. I flipped the pieces, moved the heat, did what I do, make things work that other people think are ruined. After dinner, he said, "You going to sell the place or keep it?" "Keep it," I said. "I built those shelves with my own hands. I'm not giving someone else that satisfaction." He nodded. "Good." I got busy. I added 2 more classes at the shop, hired the high school kid part-time, set up a little scholarship box where folks could chip in to cover fees for kids who didn't have it. On Saturdays, I took my truck up to the trailhead and walked until my head was empty enough to invite better thoughts back in. I started seeing a woman named Erin from the gym. She's practical and funny in a dry way, and she shows up when she says she will. She asks questions and waits for answers. She drives her own car and pays for her own things. I didn't fall into it. I walked, eyes open. A month after the split, I moved back into my house. It was even quieter than before, which suited me. I put a new deadbolt on the inside of the garage door. I replaced our too perfect duvet with a heavy cotton cover I don't have to baby. I set my guitar on the stand in the living room instead of hiding it in the closet like music is a luxury. Erin came by with a plant I haven't killed yet. We ate takeout on the porch and listened to the neighborhood settle down. At 9:30, she said, "I should go. I've got an early run." "Good," I said, meaning it. We did fine with that. Jess tried twice more. A voicemail from an unknown number with her voice on it, softer and more tired. A letter with my name written in a hand that didn't look like hers anymore. I didn't play it. I didn't open it. I am not a character in someone else's late realization. I'm a man who left when it was time. There's a difference. Her name still comes up here and there. Someone at the market asking where she's been. A client who used to chat with both of us. I don't launch into a speech. I say, we went different directions, and then I talk about wood grain or my truck's squeak or the forecast. People understand more than they pretend to. Once, at a gas station, I thought I saw Mark. Same watch, same posture. He caught my eye and quickly looked away. Maybe it was him. Maybe a guy built from the same kit. Either way, nothing in me moved. He's not my story. If you're expecting me to say I miss her, you'll be disappointed. I miss what I thought we had, which isn't the same thing. What I had by the end was a person who treated me like background noise unless someone else turned me up. When she got what she wanted, I became the coat she left on the chair. The night he answered my call, the game ended. My part was to pick up my coat and go. The last thing I said to her, the thing that put the lid on it, wasn't poetic. It was back at Dan's, right after that 2 a.m., pacing once from his sink to his fridge and back with the same bottle of water in my hand. Dan asked, if she shows up here? If she knocks? I'll tell her this, I said, and I practiced it once out loud because some words deserve rehearsal. I gave you a good life. You set it down. That's on you. Take care of yourself. She never knocked. Maybe she tried a door that opens for people who like tricks. Maybe she found silence where applause used to be. Not my business. So here's how it played out for me. I stopped waiting. I stopped cooking for ghosts. I split the routine when the respect split. I warned once, clearly, without drama. I acted when the truth arrived. I didn't punish, I left. In the weeks that followed, I watched my house turn back into a place, not a stage for someone else. I saw my friends show up with pizza and cheap jokes, which count more than people think. I felt my days fill with the kind of work that leaves you tired and quiet in a good way. I met a woman who thinks the nicest thing you can do for someone is be where you said you'd be. As for Jess, here's what I heard from someone who knows someone. After the job went sideways, the people who liked her bright energy found it inconvenient. She moved out of my house, found a rental far from downtown. There's no window office there. That's all I know. That's all I need to know. You want the final line? The one I keep in my pocket when someone asks how to tell when it's over? It's simple. When a person laughs while you're being dismissed, you don't correct them. You stop being there to hear it. You move your life where the laughter is with you, not at you. That's what I did. She called me again once, months later, from a number that got through by accident. I saw the name, and for a second my thumb hovered over accept just because old habits die loud. Then I hit decline. A minute later, a text came in. Can we talk? I deleted it. There was nothing left to talk about. I put on my boots, stepped out to the truck, and headed to the shop. Dan was waiting with coffee that tastes like hot paper, and Aaron texted a photo of a ridiculous sun coming up over the running trail. I unlocked the door, turned on the lights, and ran my hand over the smooth edge of a table that had been rough in the morning and right by noon. That's my kind of ending. Clean. No applause. Just a job finished and a door closing behind you that stays closed. And her? She's a name in my phone I don't scroll past because it isn't there anymore. She's a set of keys that don't fit my locks. She's a story I tell once, like this, so another man knows he's not crazy for wanting respect. Then I go back to my day. I didn't see her again. I don't plan to. I live in my house, drive my truck, build my tables, teach my kids at the shop, eat too much at Dan's, and spend Sundays at the market with someone who thinks a shared calendar is a promise, not a trap. That's the whole truth. That's enough.